Alex, welcome to Double Bay, mate. Thank you for taking the opportunity to come and present to the team this morning, mate. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mate, so
Good
there's
to
a
be
couple
here.
of things we'd like to cover off with you today, especially around prospecting and team management and how that's actually working for you at the moment. So we want to keep this in line with around the roles and responsibilities of an agent, which is prospecting, listing, managing, selling, and peoples and roles management. So can you take us into your team and the setup that you've got at the moment?
Yep, so my team is, so there's 4 of us, obviously myself. My responsibility is to list, to basically negotiate, and to almost hot prospecting. So just trying to keep myself at the pointy end of the transaction. So when there's something about to sell, when there's an opportunity to list, or if it's something special that's in the pipeline, to be on that and foster it until it comes to market eventually. I have James Naven, who, so he's been in the industry 16 years, he's my age, 38. His role is, once I list it, he's quick to form a relationship with the owner and meet with the owner, and basically he's running the campaign from start to finish. Spot on, really comprehensive as far as, if there's any difficulties in the listing, i.e. if we've got a vendor price and a buyer price, what's the difference and what needs to happen to close the gap? Is it more marketing? Is it a price alignment? Is it more hustle with buyers, etc.? So Jimmy's role is to run the listing and sell it. Once it gets to that pointy end of, is it going to sell before auction? Then that would be when, with my relationship with the vendor, to, I suppose come in as the trusted advisor and give them some advice and recommendations on, selling it before and how and who to. If it's going all the way to auction, I'm really not, I don't have a lot to do with the listing other than to check in with hot buyers when required, if I've got a good relationship with them, or there's too many of them that Jimmy and I would share that responsibility. So when I'm getting to auction, James has a great relationship with all the buyers at the auction. I'm obviously there, and the two of us are working for the vendor to, obviously to make that auction a success. Caitlin has just joined my team, so she's been doing real estate for about 7 or 8 years as a standalone agent with another brand, and found it difficult. She's in her late 20s, so I approached her. I approached her about 4 years ago, but she persisted with working by herself, and I think it's just got to the point where and this is probably a good avenue to recruit from if you are looking for a senior agent to come in on as a prospector or a Jimmy, a buyer agent, is to go after someone that's been working by themselves for a period of time. With an inexperienced prospector, I was getting into a lot of cold doors, which wasted time, whereas instantaneously, since she's come on, in 4 weeks, there's sort of 6 listings that have come from her work, and it's just basically her not getting involved in the appraisal or listing. It's almost booking me in to go down there, and it's amazing having the right sort of person in that prospector role. How there's an automatic shift. So it's a team of 4, because obviously it's a small business. Whilst the roles and responsibilities are clearly defined and it's very black and white, if something needs to be done, then it's all hands on deck, and we're all chipping in together and supporting each other. We communicate through a WhatsApp group, so just a Team Mintorn WhatsApp group where everyone knows where each other's at. So Caitlin in prospecting, Jimmy in buyer agent, and then Christy Bredden, who sort of our glue. She's marketing and administration, organising us, making sure we're on time, making sure that if she's seeing us doing some sort of admin, to pull it off us and make sure that she's doing admin. So almost Christy's role is to ensure that, I'm not doing anything other than speaking to buyers and sellers, and that's the same with Jimmy and Christy. If one of us are doing something other than dollar productive, then Christy's not doing her job. So, we all recognise that we've got to stay in our own lane, and that's the way we're going to get the best leverage.
So just coming back to Caitlin there, Alex, so out of the prospecting, who's she managing, hot, warm or cold?
Caitlin, so she's just staying in hot. So, particularly in this market where it's tough to get supply. You don't want to spend all your time in cold opportunities because you'll just burn time. So, for example, at our open home, so the best way to prospect hot or warm is, obviously at your open home. Do you guys use Agent Box or Home Pass? What are you using?
Both.
Home Pass, yep. So your quick conversation. So it's almost using our open home as like just making sure that that's our main source of lead generation. So anyone that's a local, anyone that's out, just simple quick questions, looking or, buying or browsing or something like that. If there's someone in there that looks, like they're a seller, it's almost screenshotting their details, sending it to Caitlin so that Saturday afternoon she's on the front foot calling these people, asking the right questions around, are you selling or are you buying, and where are you moving from, and how about we come down to your house? Getting to them on Saturday afternoon rather than Monday when every agent's chasing them. That's been a huge difference. So her prospecting is purely warm and hot. Yeah.
So when did you make the change to the callbacks on a Saturday?
As soon as Caitlin came in, because we had time to.
Got the time. Okay,
yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And at what point, mate, because we know you've got to where you are, what prospecting do you actually do yourself too, Alex?
The opportunity in front of me. So always looking. So almost training yourself to just be a little bit feverish around, not forgetting the appraisals that you did 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 18 months ago. So every Tuesday morning I'll have a pipeline meeting with Caitlin and Jimmy, and we'll look back, to 7 years ago, the appraisals I did then. If you've got the best way to, I think, almost prospect your past appraisals, past sales, is to who is the hottest buyer that you're working with at the moment, and what would they want that you've sold before or you've appraised before. And if you're looking over a 10-year period of time, I'm finding that prospecting with a hot buyer as the reason for the call is a little bit more effective than calling up and saying, prices have changed, would you like an idea of value? Because I think idea of value, it is an idea of value and it's just going to waste your time, and you're almost just satisfying the owner with something unrealistic. But if you're making targeted calls to owners in your area that the home, then I find that, one, they know that you're always in the game and you're always thinking of who might be an opportunity, and you're almost asking, now might not be the right time, but for permission to keep in touch with that owner if you do have another hot buyer at, in the next year or 5 years. And I'm in a very conservative area where turnover's not all that high, but it's interesting, people do want to be notified when there is someone outrageous in the market that could pay overs for their property. Imran?
What sort of strategy do you have around contacting your pipeline or progressing them from pipeline to sort of a listing, as far as communication and how regularly you're speaking with them?
So it depends on where they're at, right? So if they're sort of 6 to 12 months, then I don't want to come in with, full speed and full heat thinking that they're going to be a seller, because I think they'll just get overwhelmed and they'll get a little bit sort of peeved with, me just smothering them with contact. You sort of got to respect their distance a little bit. With that said, I think that contact strategy, it's got to be material information that you're giving them. So what in the marketplace is just listed or just sold, and in fact, just respecting your time because you're busy. What's just listed probably isn't that relevant. When another agent's listing sells, then it becomes relevant because it's a data point in the market that we're currently at that, maybe it's here and it used to be there. So it's almost, I'm finding people, like I've got owners that might be thinking they're selling in 12 months, but on the price they can get now, like I met with a couple last night, they can retire now 3 years early. So as soon as I understand what their motivation is and why they're moving, what's the relevant data that they might be interested between now and then. So to answer your question, what's relevant, what's good to contact that prospective with, it's probably similar sales in the area, but also calling them out of the blue on a Saturday afternoon saying, and keeping it real, I've met this buyer, they've driven past your house, something as pointy as that. And I know that now's not the right time, but they said that they absolutely love it. They've got a budget up to 5, even if they're thinking of selling for 4. And leaving them with the decision of, why don't you chat to your partner about, the possibility of them inspecting the home. No obligation, you can say no to a massive offer, but rather than talking, valuations bias that you think and I think, there's no better feedback than a buyer themselves. It's amazing what happens when you just plant the seed in someone's mind of, geez, I've got someone coming through. Even though they're not selling for 2 years, they'll go to realestate.com, research the market that they're potentially going to and get all excited about that, and before long you've got them on the bus and you've brought their plan completely forward. So I think just that buy with an inspection before they're ready is key.
And how much growth have you had since you've gone to that fixed level?
7 or 8 years ago that I joined McGrath, and I think I was writing 340 at Hookers, and then I brought on a CSM immediately because I found the McGrath system, you don't have any support. Well, at my office I didn't have any support. The admin was overwhelming, the system was difficult, right? So I immediately brought on a CSM because all of this prospecting activity, I was just weighed down by admin that I just needed someone to free me up to keep me out there. So when I was doing 340, I would have been doing selling 2 a month, or one to 2 a month.
So what market are you in?
Warunga to Pymble. Yep. So
average sale price, $1 million,
two and a quarter. Yep. So selling 1 to 2 a month. Back then, the average sale price would have been 1.1, 1.2 million. So writing 340, and then brought on admin assistant pretty quickly. About maybe 6 months after, I brought on a buyer's agent because I went from selling 1 to 2 a month to 6 to 7 a month pretty quickly, just by freeing up no admin. And that growth in 1 year, I went from 340 to 165. And then now I'm probably on track to write 4 this year. And the jump between 2.5 to 3 to 4 has just been bringing on the 4th team member. Yeah, and it was all. I think I'll sell on average between sort of 70 and 80 a year. And my goal is to get to 100, which we're sort of on track for now. By yourself, it's there's too much to do, and I think you waste so much time sitting in admin because it feels a bit safer and it's easier just to sit there and make everything look prettier. Whereas letting go of that prettiness and almost trusting that 80% is good enough rather than absolutely perfect, requiring to be perfect. Letting go of that almost that perfectionist sort of model. Just freeing yourself up to stay in dollar productive was instantaneous. That's where the biggest growth is, I reckon.
Get rid of the admin and
just focus on. Yep. And it's interesting, almost employing an admin, putting yourself under the pressure of, having to pay $3,500 a month. That's going to keep you more engaged in, geez, I've got to be making calls to fund the admin assistant as well. The buyer's agent will quickly follow because all of a sudden you're running, 5 to 8 campaigns at a time and you can't open them by yourself on the weekend. I think the admin, for me, admin's great as a Monday to Friday role, having them in the office always available. And then the buyer's agent to support you on a Saturday, helping you open and close and helping you leapfrog to make sure that you can service 8 owners and, open them stress-free and professionally on the weekend. Yeah.
And that guy's on a salary?
So Jimmy's on commission only. Yep. So he'll earn about 12% of my take home. Earns on every dollar I earn, regardless of if he's got me in the door or not, and he'll get 50, and if he actually gets me in the door of the property that I eventually sell, that listing. Yeah. So he's incentivised to, whilst he's doing his buyer work, he's at the pointy end of that trust that he's developed with that buyer. It's a great opportunity. I think commissions for us is the easiest way to incentivise someone to represent you effectively and be asking the right questions on the phone. Yeah.
And the other guy?
So Caitlin, she's on a base, but then I brought her on to get me from 3 to 4 million. So we've broken it up into quarters. So she'll get like right $1 million. If at the end of the 4 quarters we've written 4 and she's missed a couple of quarters, I'll pay her back to make sure she'll gross about if we write 4. And then, the next meeting we'll have after that year, if we've written 4, then what's the plan now? Yeah, so she's on a team target, but with the view to once she's helped the team get from 3 to 4, then, and once we've got the momentum and once we've worked out actually how to write 4, then I'll get her on a similar structure to Jimmy, a cut of everything that I sell. Yeah.
Thank you. That's excellent.
Any other questions, guys, before we just... Yep, Ben?
Yeah, I'm just curious, who's in control of your finances? Not personal, but just business related. So, for example, marketing quotes, there's a deficit of $800 because somebody forgot to include the auction. Who's chasing all that? Is that Caitlin's role or...?
Christy.
Christy.
Yep, so she's in the detail. So I don't look at any of that. I just trust she's doing the right thing. And she'll sit down with me at the Monday morning meeting. Well, in fact, we've got a board, a board at work. I'll show you next time you're in. All the properties, it's got, a column for have we got the agency, a column for have we got the contract, a column for have we got the vendor paid advertising, or is it deferred to settlement, for example. So everything's transparent. It's up there on the board. And then on the Monday morning meeting, we'll run through each of the listings. What's the pipeline like? Where's the contract? Where's the agency? Where's the vendor marketing? If there's a shortfall, then it's not my responsibility to chase it. It's her responsibility to chase it. So she's got real ownership in that, making sure that everything. Like again, if I'm spending time in that part of the business, then she's not doing her job, right? So she just owns that, and she's way better at that sort of stuff than I am. And the right person.
Chasing your vendors for that payment, or
yep.
you managing that?
Yep, no, she's chasing my vendors. The more you let go and the more responsibility you give them, therefore, you can't be blamed if there's money outstanding, and they own that. They own it. Like they're the business, they're running the business, and there's some pride and there's some ownership in that role. Yeah.
Any other? Emmy?
I know you block out call sessions and you're very big on it. So can you just run us through just how you block those out? How many sessions of those you do in a week?
Ideal day, ideal week?
Yep, so...
Sort of marketing in your core area, what are you doing to...
Yep, so the only thing ideal about my week or day is every morning between 9 and 10, James, Caitlin and myself were on the phone speaking to pipeline and progressing pipeline. So 0 buyer calls, even James. He needs to sit down. We use Rita, so we'll generate a call list of, what's on Rita's radar that we should be calling, around a recent event in Wahroonga or Pymble, like what's just sold and what's the list that Rita's going to generate. So between 9 and 10 on Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday, it's open home day, so it's hard to do that. But then Wednesday afternoon, we've taken screenshots of locals in the marketplace, and between sort of 4:30 and 5:30, we're calling, locals in the marketplace that we've met that, we should be following up to see if they're thinking of selling. And then back to Thursday, we do a bit more of a rigorous call session. It's 9 to about 11:30. That again, 0 buyers, just pipeline and prospecting. And then Friday, which I'm not there for, Caitlin and Jimmy will do 9 to 10 o'clock and doing pipeline. So basically, everything else in the week is a bit sort of loose. It's sort of a bit responsive. Trying to keep that sort of AM PM, on the phone in the AM and out doing inspections and appointments in the afternoon. But reality is, people want to inspect in morning and those sorts of things. You can't be too rigid. But so long as we're doing the 9 to 10 o'clock on Monday, Tuesday and Friday, and then the bigger call session on Thursday, and then calling potential sellers on that sort of Saturday afternoon, then we're just guaranteeing that my calendar's full of appraisals, which it is. Like it's, you sort of got to hang in there. Why it's in the calendar is because, like I might go 3 call sessions without generating an appraisal, but just staying on the phone, just being consistent in that space and very disciplined, of just making sure that I'm, and in that session I might only make 10 connects or I might only make 5 connects, but if I'm sort of honest to myself and I stay on the phone during that sort of 45 minutes to an hour, then, eventually I'm going to tip the scales with an appraisal here and there. Yeah. With the marketing, like particularly at the moment, it's only that sort of success marketing. So what's sold and giving all the information, what it's sold for, who the buyer was, where they're moving from, how many contract holders. It's still DL cards, like just listed, just sold. Facebook, so just sold and just listed with a call to action, and boosting it. So it's vendor paid boosting for the just listed, and it's for the just sold, I'm putting my own money behind it. Like I'll put a couple of $100 behind each sale. I do my market wraps every weekend, which that probably accounts for 20 to 30% of my appraisals that I do, and I'm spending about $250 a week behind a market wrap. Which market wrap at the end of every Saturday, I'm standing in front of the iPhone just saying, what the market was like out there. So what the buyer numbers were, what sold during the week, what we listed during the week, anything in the marketplace that I think might be interesting. And just all, so it's not anything sort of outrageous or silver bullet like. It's just more consistent, and just trying to own that space of social media. So in a 5-6K radius, like you'll see other agents, they'll get on the bandwagon of doing it, but then they'll stop doing it after a month or two. So it's only really myself and really Ray White in my area that own social media. There'll be spurts from other agents here and there, but they don't sort of hang in there. Yeah.
Alex, I know you pushed for time there, mate. Oh, we've got one more question. Yeah, you're right.
So Wahroonga's my patch, but like that sort of momentum listing. So if I list something I listed something in West Pymble last October, and then just like there are certain pockets which don't sell for a long period of time, then all of a sudden, someone realises a good price and everyone's on the market. So I think you've almost got to follow that momentum of where the interest is. So, the whole area between sort of Normanhurst, Wahroonga, Turramurra, Warrawee, Pymble, even into some dives, West Pymble, South Turramurra, it's like basically, covering sort of, if you broke the east up into 4 quarters, loosely prospecting that quarter, beaches, park, inner city, and then this sort of slither. I reckon because those buyers are searching in a zone, and the way you're getting in the door is very, it's always been led with, I've got a red hot buyer that's looking in this market. And when you've just sold something, that's more believable, right? So, that West Pymble, I'd never sold anything in West Pymble until last October, and now we've sold 12 in that little precinct in the last, 4 months.
How many homes have you got
In Wahroonga? Oh, it's massive, so like 5,000 in Wahroonga. There's about 25,000 homes in the Upper North Shore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent, mate. Look, I know you push for time. Thank you for making the effort to come down here. Everyone, can we give him a big double wave? Thank you. Thanks, guys.